Welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're going to be stepping back in time a little bit.
All right.
We're going all the way back to ancient Babylon.
Fascinating time.
It is a fascinating time and place, and of course, a fascinating story.
Absolutely.
That I'm sure you've already heard of.
I would imagine so.
We are talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the book of Daniel, chapter 3.
All right.
Now, I think most people know the basics of this story, right?
Yes.
This is a story about a fiery furnace and unwavering faith.
Definitely.
But we're going to dig a little bit deper today.
That's the goal.
What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, so to set the stage, we've got King Nebuchadnezzar ruling Babylon.
Of course, yes.
And he's known for those grand monuments.
Yes. Quite a legacy.
And I think it's fair to say that he had a pretty healthy sense of his own importance.
A little bit of an ego, perhaps.
Perhaps just a little bit.
Yeah, the hanging gardens, those towering walls.
Oh, yeah.
This massive golden statue. I mean, come on.
He was not.
He was a man who knew how to make a statement.
He was not shy about showcasing his power.
Not at all.
And then we have our main characters in this story.
Right.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes.
And these are young Jewish men.
Young men.
Serving in high positions within Nebuchadnezzar's government.
Right.
So already we've got a really fascinating tension here. We have this clash of cultures and loyalties.
Absolutely. It speaks to just the complexities of life in these ancient empires.
Yeah.
I mean, you have these young men living in exile far from their homeland, and yet they've risen to positions of authority.
Yeah.
So clearly they were skilled and adaptable, maybe even respected within that Babylonian system.
Yeah. And I mean, navigating that system couldn't have been easy.
Oh, absolutely not.
Especially when Nebuchadnezzar decides to erect this colossal golden statue.
Oh, yeah, this thing was massive.
90 feet tall?
90 feet tall. Can you imagine that?
I can't even imagine.
That's like a 9-story building,
Yeah.
just a shining beacon of gold.
And he commands everyone, regardless of their background, their beliefs, to bow down and worship this thing.
Yeah, this wasn't just a suggestion, was it?
No, this was not a suggestion.
This was a power play.
Yeah.
A test of loyalty.
Big time.
And refusal meant immediate execution.
Yeah, in a blazing furnace.
Yeah, think about the pressure in that moment.
Oh, man.
When music starts, everyone around you is bowing, and your life hangs in the balance.
What would you do?
Yeah, it really makes you think.
Yeah, it's a question that really cuts to the core of what we believe in.
Absolutely.
And how far we're willing to go to stand up for those beliefs.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And in this case, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refuse to bow.
Wow.
They refuse.
Bold move.
And their reasoning, as they boldly explain to Nebuchadnezzar, is rooted in their faith.
They worship one God.
They worship one God.
And a golden statue simply doesn't fit into that equation.
Just doesn't compute.
They're not interested in a theological debate.
Right.
They're drawing a line in the sand.
And they do so with incredible courage.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, they acknowledge the very real possibility of death.
Yeah.
Telling Nebuchadnezzar, our God is able to save us, but even if he doesn't, we still won't bow. I love that part.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's commitment.
It certainly is.
And it really raises some fascinating questions about just the psychology of that kind of conviction.
Right.
What allows someone to face death with that kind of unwavering resolve?
Is it purely faith?
Yeah.
Are there other factors at play?
I mean, it's hard to fathom.
It's really remarkable.
Well, needless to say, Nebuchadnezzar is furious.
Oh, yeah? Can you blame him?
I mean, this isn't just disobedience. This is a public challenge to his authority.
Directly undermining him.
Absolutely. So he orders the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual.
7 times hotter.
7 times.
That's not just about execution. That's about sending a message.
Oh, yeah. This is a brutal display of power.
Absolutely.
Intended to crush any hint of dissent.
Make an example of them.
And then these 3 men, still bound, are thrown into the inferno.
Wow. It's a scene that plays out like something out of a myth or a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
The flame, the screams, that sense of impending doom.
It's intense.
And then what happens next turns the entire story on its head.
Talk about a twist.
Right.
So Nebuchadnezzar is looking into the furnace, expecting to see ashes.
Oh, right.
Instead, he sees 4 figures.
4 figures.
Walking around unharmed.
What?
And the 4th one looks, well, let's just say divine.
This changes everything.
Talk about a plot twist. And it forces us to ask, how do we interpret this?
Right.
Is this a literal miracle? Is it a symbolic representation of the power of faith?
Interesting.
Or is it something else entirely?
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to get into next time.
Can't wait.
But first I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts on this whole situation? What strikes you as most intriguing so far?
I'm curious to hear what people think.
Yeah, me too.
It's fascinating how this story, even thousands of years later, it still sparks debate and discussion.
It really does.
I mean, some people look at this and they interpret it literally, a demonstration of divine intervention.
A miracle.
Exactly. But others might view it more as a powerful metaphor for the triumph of faith over adversity.
Yeah, and there are even historical analyses that explore, potential explanations within the context of ancient Babylonian culture and beliefs.
Of course.
Maybe certain fire-resistant materials were involved, or techniques that we've, lost to time.
Possibly.
Or maybe it was a carefully orchestrated illusion.
Oh, interesting.
To reinforce Nebuchadnezzar's power.
Right, make it seem like even more of a god.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the point is, this story really operates on multiple levels.
It really does.
It's a historical account, it's theological exploration, it's a psychological study, all rolled into one.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the sheer drama of it all.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, here's this all-powerful king accustomed to absolute obedience.
Right.
And he's suddenly confronted with a power that seemingly defies his understanding.
I mean, imagine the scene.
Oh, yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar calls out to them, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out. Come here.
Wow, what a moment.
Yeah, it's an acknowledgement of something beyond his control, something that challenges his entire worldview.
It's a turning point for sure.
And then they emerge from the furnace.
Yeah.
Completely unharmed.
Unharmed.
Not a single burn. Their clothes are intact.
Wow.
Not even the smell of smoke.
That's incredible.
It's a moment that just begs for interpretation.
It really did. Some might see it as, clear-cut miracle.
Sure.
Proof of God's protection. But others might focus more on the symbolism.
Okay.
The fire representing trials and tribulations. And the men's emergence representing the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity.
I mean, it's interesting how this story has resonated across cultures and throughout history.
For millennia.
I mean, it's been interpreted and reinterpreted.
It's been a source of inspiration for art music, even political movements.
Yeah, I think it speaks to just how universal the themes are here.
Right.
Courage, faith, standing up for what you believe in.
Timeless concepts.
These themes transcend specific time periods and belief systems.
We all face moments where we're pressured to conform.
Yes.
To compromise our values.
And this story provides a framework for navigating those challenges.
It does. And, it's not just about individual courage.
Right.
It's about the power of community.
Yeah.
Of shared beliefs. Imagine the impact this event had on the Jewish community in Babylon.
Oh, that must have been incredible.
To witness this public display of faith and divine protection.
Yeah, it must have been incredibly affirming.
It must have strengthened their resolve.
Yeah.
Their sense of identity in this foreign land.
Yeah, it showed them that even in the face of immense pressure, their faith could provide strength and hope.
Powerful stuff.
And even Nebuchadnezzar, the one who orchestrated this whole ordeal.
Right, the one who threw them in the fire.
He seems to undergo a transformation.
Yeah, he doesn't double down on his authority.
Right.
He doesn't deny what he's witnessed.
He doesn't try to explain it away.
Instead, he issues a decree.
Yeah.
Praising the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and threatening punishment for anyone who speaks against him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a remarkable shift.
It really is. And it speaks to the power of this event to challenge and change even the most entrenched beliefs.
It's also interesting to consider, the long-term implications.
Yeah.
I mean, Nebuchadnezzar promotes these three men within his government.
Wow. So he recognizes their integrity, their courage, and perhaps even their wisdom in remaining true to their convictions.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that standing up for what you believe in can have unexpected consequences.
Absolutely.
It can lead to persecution, of course.
Of course.
But it can also lead to respect.
Yeah.
Even admiration from those who might have initially opposed you.
It's a powerful testament to the strength of conviction.
So we have this incredible story, this blend of history and faith and human drama.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean for us thousands of years later?
What can we learn from this?
How can we apply these lessons to our own lives?
That's a great question. And it's one we'll explore further as we continue our deep dive.
It's easy to get caught up in the spectacle of this fiery furnace, right? Mm-hmm. The miraculous escape.
Right, yeah.
But I think there's a deeper layer here.
I think so too.
Something that speaks to the challenges that we all face in our own lives today.
Yeah, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It's not just about surviving a literal fire, is it?
Right.
It's about navigating those metaphorical fires that we all encounter.
Yeah, those moments where you're pressured to compromise your values, to conform to expectations that don't really align with your beliefs.
Exactly.
It's like everyone around you is bowing to the golden statue, so to speak. Yeah. And we're the ones standing out there risking those consequences.
Right. Those are the tough moments.
Yeah, and it's in those moments that I think this story really offers us a framework for action.
It does.
It reminds us that we have a choice.
We always have a choice.
To conform or to stand firm.
Right.
Even when it's difficult, even when it feels like we're standing alone.
Absolutely. And that choice, as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego demonstrate, it takes courage.
It does.
It takes a deep-seated conviction in what you believe.
Right.
A willingness to face the consequences of your actions.
And it's not always easy.
No, it can be lonely. It can be scary.
It can come at a cost.
Absolutely.
But I think this story reminds us that even in the face of all those challenges, there's a real power in staying true to ourselves.
Yeah.
In living in alignment with our values.
It's a powerful message. And, what's interesting is that this story, it doesn't end with them just walking out of the furnace.
Right.
It leaves us with questions about the aftermath.
Yeah.
The ripple effects of their actions.
Imagine the impact on that Jewish community in Babylon.
Yeah, this wasn't just a private act of faith. This was a public display of defiance and divine protection.
Yeah.
It must have been emboldening for others to see that.
To hold on to their beliefs, to resist that pressure, to assimilate.
Absolutely.
And what about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego themselves?
Right. What happened to them?
How did this experience shape their lives moving forward? They continued to serve in Nebuchadnezzar's government.
They did.
But I imagine their perspective, their influence had to have shifted.
Oh, undoubtedly. They probably became beacons of hope.
Yeah.
Symbols of resistance, not just for their own community, but maybe for others in the Babylonian system.
Right.
Who were disillusioned or seeking something more.
So as we emerge from this deep dive, what's the key takeaway here?
What can we learn from these three young men?
Who dared to stand up for what they believed in.
Even when it meant facing a fiery furnace.
Yeah, I think this story reminds us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but it's the decision to act despite that fear.
It's about recognizing that your values, your beliefs are worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard, even when it's unpopular.
And it reminds us that we're not alone in these struggles.
We're not alone.
Just as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had each other.
Right.
We too have community support systems, people who share our values and can really help us.
Absolutely. We need to lean on each other.
When we need it the most.
For sure.
So the next time you find yourself facing a, maybe not a literal fiery furnace.
Right.
But a metaphorical one.
A challenge.
Yeah.
An obstacle.
Remember the story of these three young men?
Remember their courage,
their conviction, and the power of their faith.
You, too, have the strength to stand firm, to stay true to yourself.
Even when you're facing pressure.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into a story that I think continues to spark conversation.
For sure.
And inspire reflection.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those flames of curiosity burning.